Welcome to another episode of China Update, where I provide you with the most up-to-date political, economic, and geostrategic analysis on the world's number 2 economy. My name is Tony. Let's jump in. Okay, happy Wednesday everybody. Before we begin with today's episode, we note that top Chinese leadership, including General Secretary Xi Jinping, are preparing to go to their Beidaihe break. This is a 2-week escape to a seaside resort where leading party members relax and discuss national policy and politics in a more informal atmosphere. Because of this, Xi Jinping will be out of the public eye for 2 weeks, approximately. It's important to note this because it is usually during this time of the year that the rumour mill about his health goes into overdrive. If we see reports in the coming weeks alleging that Xi is sick or worse because he hasn't been seen in public, we should be especially skeptical of these claims. With that said, let's move into today's episode and we'll begin with the economy. And there are 2 reports published this week with a lot of bad news for policymakers. But just quickly, if you get some value from today's episode, don't forget to hit the like button. And if you'd like to see the channel grow and be shown to new people, sharing and subscribing is a huge help as well. The channel is almost at 74,000 subscribers. It would be awesome if we could reach that target this week. According to a new report from a state-backed think tank, the National Institute for Finance and Development, China's macro leverage ratio hit a new high in the second quarter of 2024. The ratio, which measures outstanding non-financial debt as a percentage of nominal GDP, edged up to 295.6% at the end of June from 294.8% at the end of March. This is the official rate, which is already very high. Some commentators and analysts believe that the rate is even higher. The 0.8 percentage point increase was sharply lower than the 6.8% gain in the first 3 months through March. However, economic growth in Q2 was much lower than Q1 as well. The NIFD estimated that the ratio would rise to a fresh record at the end of the year, increasing by 10 percentage points from the end of 2023 when it stood at 288%. The report found that China's macro leverage ratio continues to rise and is higher than those of other major economies, expressing, quote, "The primary reason for the divergence in trends with other G20 countries is the divergence in inflation," end quote. Chinese financial media outlet Caixin, writing on the report, explains that since the COVID-19 pandemic, inflation in China has been sluggish, while developed economies have experienced a prolonged period of high prices. China's GDP deflator, a measure of price inflation that reflects the changes in prices of all goods and services included in GDP, has been negative for 6 out of the last 7 quarters. The outlet added that, quote, "Although the pace of debt growth slowed, it still increased more rapidly than nominal GDP, which rose 4% year-on-year in the second quarter, down from 4.2% in the first 3 months. In real terms, taking account of inflation, the world's second-largest economy expanded 4.7% year-on-year in the April through June period, decelerating from 5.3% in the first quarter." End quote. Next up for the economy, we have a second report to cover. According to a new report by China-based market research firm China Real Estate Information, urban investment and development companies, which are controlled by China's local governments, essentially local government financing vehicles, secured the rights to develop nearly half of all the land plots offered at auction in the past 3+ years, but few of their housing projects have gotten underway. Regular viewers will know that over the last few years, local governments, highly reliant on land use sales revenue, have directed local government financing vehicles, which are usually tasked with building urban infrastructure, to buy up plots as crisis-hit developers have retreated from the market. Despite this, revenue from land use sales has still continued to plunge. According to the China Real Estate Information report published this week, from January 2021 to May of this year, firms or consortiums set up by local government financing vehicles won 46% of new land use rights for residential projects in 30 major cities and accounted for 33% of the deals by value, making them the biggest players at these auctions. But construction work has started on just a fifth of the new plots secured by these local government financing vehicles. Quote, "Far less than other developers," end quote. The rate of development could further drop to 15%, even under optimistic forecasts. The report adds that the local government financing vehicles have accumulated a total of nearly 330 million square meters of land where building work has yet to start. Yan Yuejin, research director of the E-House China Research and Development Institute, speaking to Chinese financial media outlet Yicai, observed that local government financing vehicles have been quite active in the land market, partly because they were actioning the policies of local authorities to steady demand. Quote, but their bids at land auctions done without carefully checking their own development capabilities first are an important reason for delays. End quote. According to data from Huatai Securities, local government financing vehicles have been slowing the pace of buying since the start of this year, however, mainly due to cash flow problems. From January through May, what local government financing vehicles spent on land was down 16% year-on-year. This is putting renewed fiscal pressure on local governments that need to sell more land use rights. The problem with systemic issues is that weight taken off one area just results in the same weight being placed on another. Stealing from Peter to pay Paul. Next up, yesterday, Tuesday, state media reported that General Secretary Xi Jinping sent a message to Nicolas Maduro congratulating him on re-election as president of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. Evidently, Xi is not concerned by allegations of election fraud in the country. The National Electoral College of Venezuela announced on Monday morning that after counting more than 80% of the votes, Maduro received 51.2%, while the main opposition candidate, Edmundo González, secured 44.2%. Throughout Sunday, several independent exit polls predicted an easy victory for González. Edison Research, for example, a US-based polling firm, predicted that the opposition leader would win with 65% to Maduro's 31%. White House National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby said, quote, the results that have been released by Venezuelan electoral authorities to date do not reflect the will or the votes of the people. End quote. Despite this, however, she reportedly said that since taking office, quote, President Maduro has led the Venezuelan government and people in pursuing a development path suited to their own national conditions, making remarkable achievements in national construction, end quote, adding that China and Venezuela are good friends that trust each other and good partners for common development. And critically, in the context of the wide international concern over the election results, Xi Jinping added, quote, China will, as always, firmly support Venezuela's efforts to safeguard national sovereignty, national dignity, and social stability, as well as Venezuela's just cause of opposing external interference. End quote. Russia, Cuba, and Iran have also congratulated Maduro on his victory. No country in South America has yet to acknowledge the result. Brazil's foreign ministry said it would wait for polling station data to be published before making a statement. Next up, this week, party mouthpiece, The People's Daily, is running a series of essays from senior officials touching on different areas of national policy and ideology. Yesterday, the paper carried a piece from Vice Premier He Lifeng called Establishing a System and Mechanism for Developing New Quality Productive Forces Based on Local Conditions. Some of the language he used is noteworthy. Quote, This is the requirement of the new era to adapt to the new round of technological revolution and industrial transformation trends, and to win the initiative in development. Currently, global scientific and technological innovation has entered an unprecedentedly intensive and active period. New generation information technology, biotechnology, new materials, new energy, and other fields are widely penetrating, constructing the global innovation landscape and influencing the competitive pattern among major countries. The world's major countries are vigorously developing emerging industries and future industries, vying for the commanding heights of the new round of technological revolution and industrial transformation. At the same time, economic globalization is facing headwinds, with the United States and other Western countries sparing no effort to suppress and contain us, attempting to decouple and break chains with us. We must recognize the extreme importance and urgency of seizing the opportunity for a leap in productivity brought by this round of technological revolution and industrial transformation from the perspective of grand history, macroscopic view, and overall situation. We must promote the major transformation of our country's science, technology, and industrial development from followers to leaders, strongly supporting the great cause of building a strong country and of national rejuvenation." End quote. These ideas bring us nicely to today's last development to cover. This week saw the publication of a working paper by Jimmy Goodrick, an advisor to RAND Corporation and a University of California Institute on Global Conflict and Cooperation non-resident fellow. The paper argues that China's leadership under Xi Jinping has initiated a significant strategic shift towards a so-called fortress economy designed to bolster national self-sufficiency and resilience against external shocks, and ultimately allow the nation to withstand extreme situations, including protracted arms conflict. This policy towards self-sufficiency is an area we've been following closely on China Update for well over a year. The paper, titled "China's Evolving Fortress Economy," is a very interesting read for anyone interested in this space. We will end today's video by examining some of it, and we now quote selected excerpts from the long piece directly. Since the deterioration of the US-China relationship, the COVID-19 pandemic, and the Russian invasion of Ukraine, the Communist Party of China, CCP, political leadership including CCP General Secretary Xi Jinping, have placed an increased focus on building a fortress economy that is relatively self-sufficient and able to withstand external shocks. A fortress economy strategy is also consistent with Xi's overall elevation of national security as a key national priority in his proposed general concept of national security. Furthermore, Xi has on multiple occasions stressed the need for China to be prepared for extreme case situations, or 极端情况. After President Xi's speech to the 20th Party Congress directly made reference to the phrase. More recently, in 2024, the CCP has begun to operationalize these concepts under the CCP phraseology of critical Dominion national security capabilities to develop elements of fortress economy strategy such as food, energy, and supply chain security measures, in addition to civilian defense mobilization, emergency preparedness, and strategic reserve infrastructure development. The establishment of a fortress economy able to operate under severe conditions, including a protracted war, is now a clear and consistent policy for Xi. Even before the pandemic and the current set of international crises, Xi had warned his country of an increasingly dangerous international environment that required a more sober outlook and comprehensive approach toward national security. Xi and party scholars have emphasized that this type of extreme case thinking is the hallmark of the CCP, which is a political party born during and thrives under extreme duress and crisis. Xi and these scholars have noted that the crises facing China today may be equivalent to or exceed those facing the party during the early days of the revolution, and necessitate worst-case thinking and planning, citing Mao's famous 1945 line that the CCP needed to be prepared to suffer, 准备吃亏. Xi's series of speeches in 2018 and 2019 on addressing systemic risks appear to have created a prophet-like aurora for him, given the world went on to witness a global pandemic, economic depression, and multiple geopolitical conflicts. Xi then seized on these developments and aggressively sought to reshape China's economy and political system to reflect his vision of a hardened national security state and a fortress economy, which he has clearly argued is the best and only way to safeguard China's national rejuvenation that may face extreme situations, to include armed conflict. Does the evidence then suggest that Xi is moving to create a fortress economy in preparation for war, or is he simply trying to learn from the lessons of the pandemic and the Ukraine crisis to make his country more resilient? To appropriately answer this question, it's important to review again the Chinese nomenclature used to discuss China's external threat environment and suggested policy response. As this paper has documented, Xi has on numerous occasions used the term extreme situation or extreme case thinking to describe the kind of dangers and threats he perceives his country is facing. While sometimes Chinese policymakers refer to this term in the context of national disaster response, Xi has mentioned the phrase specifically in the context of China's external environment, indicating he is referring to a more serious set of risks that are nationwide and systemic, not regional within China. Influential Chinese scholars and official state media have also clarified that Xi's discussion of extreme situations is explicitly referring to the possibility of armed conflict or war, including over the Taiwan Strait. The steps that China needs to take to address these extreme risks or survive under extreme situations has been closely elaborated in China's most recent 5-year plan and in the 20th Party Congress under the framework of economic security, and include food, energy, resource, supply chain security, and national reserve system building. The PRC is already undertaking many intermediate efforts, including boosting food and grain self-sufficiency, hardening critical infrastructure, reducing reliance on foreign supply chains, increasing energy security, and building a national strategic reserve system. It is also clear from more recent developments that Xi has moved from rhetoric to action, and his central economic agencies, in particular the National Development and Reform Commission, are moving to spend up to 1 trillion yuan to build out a fortress economy. This indicates that Xi is putting his money where his mouth is, and is willing to impose costly economic burdens to achieve his goals. It is unlikely Xi would expend major political capital to forge these new policies, dip into national treasuries, and mobilize the nation if he did not believe the risk of geopolitical conflict was on the rise. And while his policy has received some scrutiny, that it has lowered growth by overly focusing on security, party commentary has continued to defend the necessity for economic security measures in light of China's current stage of development and external environment. The overwhelming evidence suggests Xi is indeed attempting to transform China into a fortress economy, and has outlined a specific set of policies and actions backed with significant funding to achieve this objective. It is also likely he is pursuing this strategy due to a perceived increased risk of geopolitical or even armed conflict. While completely speculation, an alternative explanation for Xi's view of a hostile external environment is that these tensions are a politically convenient excuse for Xi to solidify his power domestically and justify increased autocratic control. However, Xi has already secured the removal of term limits by the 19th Party Congress in 2018 and was perceived to be in firm control of China well before his increased discussion of elevated external risks and the possibility of extreme situations. Here ends the direct quote. Later this week we will be covering a major report released by Congress in the US discussing its own concerns about potential conflict with China. Okay, that is today's episode of China Update. Thank you so much everybody for watching. Have a good Wednesday, and I will see you all tomorrow.